This is another quick video about external respiration, the exchange of gases that's happening at the interface between your alveoli and the capillaries, so blood vessels that wrap around those alveoli. So this is interface between the external and internal environments. So air coming through your respiratory structures is going to come into your alveoli. Your alveoli are those clusters of little kind of spherical sacs that are flexible. They have an ability to expand and contract as not initiated by themselves, but initiated by changes in pressure created by your intercostal muscles and your diaphragm. For external respiration, this is the exchange of oxygen and CO2 that's happening at the interface between your alveoli and your capillaries. So at the alveolus, or in plural, the alveoli, you have air coming in, and that air that's coming in is rich in oxygen. So incoming air has lots of oxygen. This little diagram over here is showing you just that at different altitudes, if you were to climb up a mountain, at the top of the mountain, every breath of air you would take in would have fewer individual molecules, and closer to sea level, you would have a greater density of molecules. This makes your job easier if you're breathing at sea level, and this makes your job much harder, because in this place, even though there is oxygen available, there's simply not so much of it. So at the alveolus, the oxygen molecules that do make it in, remember air is a mixture of gases, mostly nitrogen gas, but also oxygen and carbon dioxide and water and methane and helium and all sorts of things. But so the top three are nitrogen, oxygen, and argon, but all sorts of things. And the only one we really want through breathing is oxygen. So the concentration of oxygen is what we're looking at. When we are breathing in, the air that comes through our trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and into our alveolus is rich in oxygen. That rich in oxygen air is going to have just diffusion. Diffusion is passive transport, movement from high concentration to low. Diffusion always works that way. And the air in your alveoli, once you breathe in, should have more oxygen than the concentration of oxygen in your blood, because your blood probably has dropped off that oxygen to some tissues in your body that needed it. The diffusion happens, of course, randomly, but if it's higher concentration here and lower concentration there, then it will be a greater rate of diffusion that's happening into your blood. So your blood will become oxygenated, which is great. After that diffusion has happened, these states are inside your alveolus and inside your blood. They are equal. That oxygenated blood is going to return, so return back to, I'll use red for this, I guess, return back to your heart where it'll get pumped to the whole rest of your body, to, I don't know, your liver or your muscles or your brain or wherever needs it. Your whole body needs it. Once that blood is being used, that oxygen is being dropped off to your leg or to your pancreas or wherever, it will become low in oxygen but rich in waste products, CO2. And that deoxygenated blood is going to return back to your heart, and it's going to go to your lungs. It's going to be pumped to your lungs, where it's going to want to pick up oxygen. Not only does it want to pick up oxygen like we have right here, but it also wants to get rid of CO2. So if we look at CO2, here we have lots of CO2. This is a high concentration of CO2, and here a lower concentration of CO2 in the air you breathe in. And the diffusion is, of course, going to go from high concentration to low. And so over time, the CO2 concentrations in your blood and in the alveolus will be equal. If I could write equal, there we go. So what's actually happening is inside the alveolus, your alveolar sacs are filling with air through the process of breathing. The air will be rich in oxygen. So oxygen is going to want to go from high concentration to low. I'll do the oxygen in red because we represent oxygenated blood with a red color. And your blood will be coming in deoxygenated, rich in CO2 but low in oxygen. And that CO2 is going to want to go from high concentration in your blood to low concentration in the alveolus. So oxygen goes into your blood at this point, attaches to hemoglobin molecules, and CO2 leaves your blood at this point and goes into your alveolus where you can breathe it out. So that's happening at the interface between the alveolus and the blood. This illustration down here is just showing a similar thing, but from a different perspective. So here, this is looking at a cross-section through a blood vessel. This would be a blood vessel here, or it could easily be a cross-section through an alveolar sac, and we would get the same type of movement. The alveolus and the blood vessels are they're partners. They work together. So external respiration is the exchange of oxygen into the blood and CO2 out of the blood that happens in the lungs, right at the border between these blood vessels, these capillaries, and the alveoli. And remember, the alveoli are carrying external air, fresh air that you just breathed in, and once you fill them up with CO2, you will blow that CO2 away, and then repeat the process with fresh air a few seconds later.